Welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me. My name is Ryver. I'm the intersectional astrologer and Reiki master of Psyche and Soul Astrology. Now, it's my mission to help you remain grounded and empowered while you accelerate your growth. And to do that, this week I'll be talking to you about the upcoming new moon in the sign of Pisces. It will be exact on March the 6th. As with all of my videos, I'll be leaving you with a tangible takeaway at the end, a challenge of the week in this case, and something that you can carry out just for a day or for the entire Pisces new moon cycle if you like, something to help you practically dig deeper into the energies and opportunities presented by the planets so that you can stay on top of your own personal mission. For those of you who are new to this channel, the way that I break down transits is by popping up a chart. So you'll see me down in the corner for a second here so that you can look at the planets and the aspects and all that good astrological jazz involved and see for yourself some of the things that we'll be talking about. For this week, we'll be talking about Aries on the rising sign of this chart, Jupiter and also Neptune as rulers of the Pisces new moon. And of course, we've got to mention the fact that Mercury will be retrograde, because there aren't really any other aspects besides the connection between the new moon and Neptune. We'll really focus on what types of intention setting or new moon rituals are really going to be best suited to working with the new moon that's taking place while Mercury is indeed retrograde. In fact, those of you who've already seen the Mercury retrograde video know that I very ambitiously thought I would be able to talk about Mercury retrograde and the new moon all in one video, somehow under 20 minutes, and that did not work out. I left that in that video, and I mention it in this one because I want to show, rather than just tell you, how much our naively optimistic thinking can color what we are experiencing. Now, some people might say that because Mercury is retrograde, this is a bad time to set new moon intentions. Now, I personally don't subscribe to that, though I say that with one caveat, and that's this. We need to understand what potentials and possibilities the planets are presenting with every new moon intention or whatever other type of ritual we might do that involves the planet. So with Mercury being retrograde, it's not that we need to not do anything or chaos will happen. I do think that we would be remiss to expect the things that we see and feel and in particular think over the next couple of weeks to be clearly actionable in the state that we receive them. We might have really divinely inspired ideas, but they'll require more thinking through in the future if we actually want to bring them to a point of fruition. So that's the real kind of Mercury's in retrograde warning. And if you want to know more about how Mercury retrograde is going to be impacting us through the month of March, I'll throw a card up. So I think it'll be up in this corner, a link, and I'll also put it down in the description box below. So with that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the chart itself and what's up with the Pisces new moon on March the 6th. Now, Aries will be rising, which means Mars, who is the ruler of Aries, is going to be sort of directing the show from behind the scenes, so to speak. Mars is actually placed in a house in this chart that makes it especially powerful, though it's in the sign of Taurus. So let's talk a little bit about that. Mars is a planet that's about get up and go. It's about our fight for it. It's about our feistiness for the things that we want, and it's about the impulse to go do it, especially when we're talking about Aries. It's about taking that impulse as a catalyzing spark and then pioneering and exploring and just figuring out what happens when we follow that moment of inspiration. Taurus, on the other hand, is a sign that's very much about leisure, about pleasure, about food and drink. And, if you've heard me talk about the two different sides of Venus, the Taurus side of Venus is, take me for a picnic in the park, whereas the Libra side is going to be like, let's socialize in the tea room. But either way, that Venusian vibe is going to be there. Now, without talking about the entire chain of all of the planets involved, I bring up that Venusiness because we're talking about Mars being in the sign of Taurus. And there is a sort of juxtaposition, a sort of oppositeness between what Mars is about in terms of function and what Taurus is about in terms of processes and area of effect, so to speak. And with Mars in the sign of Taurus, it could be easy to say, oh, this is just another indication that everything's going to be weird and wonky. But you artists out there probably know that it totally can go together for passion and feistiness to result in comforting, nourishing, grounding, pleasurable things. In fact, even the most relaxed, sedate, dreamy, instrumental song still is created by that sort of frenzied, creative spark and moment, right? Now, with the new moon on March the 6th, it'll be early in the morning around 8 a.m. on the west coast of the state, so, add or subtract hours depending on where you are in the world, but remember that it's not like this exact at 8:04 the light switch goes on and then it's the new moon, and then at 8:05 it's not the new moon anymore. That's not how that works. It's a gradual energetic thing, and depending on where you are in the world, it might even be March the 5th for you when the moon becomes new. And as long as we're kind of in that 24-ish, 36-hour-ish period, you're gonna be setting an intention or thinking about ritual or thinking about what you want this next moon cycle around the right time. With the moon and the sun at 15 degrees of Pisces, they'll be smack dab in the middle of Pisces, which isn't quite as powerful as 0 degrees or 29, but it's very Pisces. So think art, think dreams, think inspiration, think, quixotic is the word that I thought of. So there's kind of hopelessly hopefulness is the thought that comes to mind. I had the silly little thought and I put it in the custom thumbnail: to dream or not to dream. That is the question. Whether it is best to wait until Mercury is direct is really up to you when it comes to new moon ritual. But I think that so long as we understand the limitations and potentials that are presented by Mercury being retrograde when we get this new moon, it's totally possible, very reasonable, and probably quite fruitful to set some really powerful intentions during this new moon, so long as we understand this. I certainly wouldn't expect to see the things that come from this new moon intention setting to be accurate thoughts that are actionable in the form in which they come. So let's break that down a little bit. In this chart, we've got the new moon conjunct Neptune, right? So we've got the sun, the moon, and Neptune at 15 degrees and 16 degrees of Pisces. So they're basically one unit. Our conscious thoughts, our subconscious feelings and responses to the environment, and the inspiring connectivity that dissolves our ego boundaries are all bundled up into one package. And that package is placed in the 11th house of this particular chart. The 11th house has to do with our hopes, dreams, and aspirations. So the dreaminess part, right, that totally works. And if we're setting intentions around our hopes and dreams and our aspirations, we might expect that we'll get some really good ideas about what I should do, where I want to be, how's my career going to unfold. With the 11th house, you could even look at friend networks, social networks, and colleagues. If Mercury weren't retrograde, you could maybe expect that over the course of that moon cycle, you would meet a couple of potential colleagues or collaborators. You might get a really good idea about a career that's a good fit for you, or a project that makes sense in your already established career. And by the full moon, you'll have a better idea of these people are going to be great collaborators. This person's a new friend. This connection was just interesting and inspiring. This is how I should proceed with the project. But with Mercury retrograde, I wouldn't expect the thoughts, the ideas, the inspiration that comes to be actionable in the form in which it comes to you. It probably get some really great, divinely inspired ideas. I would expect that. And I would also expect them to need refining, rethinking, and a lot of work, maybe not a lot of work, but more work later in April when Mercury's not just gone direct, but cleared their shadow in order to actually act on them, to bring them into like material, tangible fruition. So, for instance, for me, this particular new moon actually in my birth chart, it's going to fall in the 10th house. So it's going to be about career. So my wishes and aspirations around career, there's a lot of that up for me right now. And what I personally will be doing in terms of my ritual and expecting is that I'll get some really good, clear impulses around what it is I want, some really good, clear ideas about what my hopes are, and then I'll need to work out how to get to those hopes later. With this particular new moon, especially with Jupiter ruling the sun and moon, because Jupiter is the classical ruler of Pisces, with Jupiter being in the 9th house of this chart, I would imagine that a lot of us are gonna have this feeling of wanting to be somewhere else, whether that's already there, wherever that there may be, whether it's literally wishing we could travel and escape. There might be a bit of an escapist quality. If you find yourself daydreaming a lot, daydreaming about traveling, daydreaming about times in the past that you feel nostalgic about, daydreaming about the future that you really wish was here already, all that is spot on. All that makes a lot of sense. And don't beat yourself up about it. There's no need to pressure yourself to monetize those ideas right away, to be productive. This is a time that's very much about going within to find the inspiration. Not about acting on the inspiration, not about making money from that inspiration or the connections or making a plan even. It's just about being inspired, finding the optimism. Now, this particular new moon period might be especially fantastical or fantastically delusional type thinking. And I don't mean that in a like terrible, pathologizing, judgy way. I just mean that in the sense that I thought I'd be able to pull off talking about everything happening in Pisces, even though I totally know better as an astrologer. Mercury's slowing down, our thinking is slowing down. The actual ability to plan something, and then to execute that plan, that process isn't operating as it usually does. Doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. It just means that if we expect to do things in a business as usual fashion, then it's not going to pan out the way that we thought. So what should you do then? What am I suggesting this new moon intention setting should be about? I think that if you are inclined to ritual or to setting new moon intentions, that the types of intentions that are going to be most clearly manifested or most easily manifested over the course of this month are going to have to do with dreams, with art, with creativity, and with our ideas around inspiration. And so I recommend to everyone that you set your intentions to maybe see what your real hopes are. I think that's something that will really work well, especially with the Mercury retrograde, because our thinking will be different than it usually is. So whether you're a lucid dreamer, a dream journaler, a stream of consciousness writing person, whether you talk to yourself in the shower or in the car while you're driving through traffic, these are all things that are going to be really well supported by the energy of the planets over the course of the month. If you are someone who normally doesn't write and normally doesn't journal and like you normally don't have very clear memory of your dreams, it's actually still a good time to maybe take it up if you've been thinking that maybe you want to do something along those lines. You don't even need to go buy a fancy journal. If you've got a binder clip or a paper clip or a stapler, just grab some sheets of paper and create something that gives you a bit of space to write and leave it next to your bed. When you wake up in the morning, write down, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm telling you the challenge of the week. And I do want to point out just one other thing about this particular new moon cycle. This new moon, so the sun and the moon, will be conjunct Neptune. So we've got our conscious thinking, our subconscious responses to the environment, and our process of assimilating all of our experiences alongside a planet that has to do with dissolving our ego boundaries. And that can work. It really can work. And it can be really, really beneficial. But what I wouldn't expect it to be is something that is going to manifest the way that we wish it to, that is going to be super solid and tangible, monetizable. Like I said before, that's something that I think is going to, after the Mercury retrograde, after this moon cycle, require its own working with to really bring to fruition. Although I believe that the ideas and the dreams that we have will be very accurate indicators of what our genuine hopes and wishes are. And so that brings me to your tangible takeaway, this week's challenge of the week. This is a challenge that you can do just for a day if you like, although I recommend you give it at least a week, and if you can, carry out this challenge until the moon is full, so for a full 2 weeks. And this is the challenge. Write down your thoughts. Write down your dreams. Talk to yourself. Let your mind manifest outside of the confines of your brain box. And words are going to be a really great way to do this. You might find yourself Freudian slipping all over the place. And if you can, like whether it's in your cell phone, whether you talk it into your cell phone, whether you jot down a quick note, write down those Freudian slips. They're going to give you insights into what's really going on below your conscious level of awareness about what you really hope, what you really wish. So, challenge of the week, write down your dreams. Practice the stream of consciousness. You can do both. You can choose one. If you go the stream of consciousness route, I recommend that you set a timer for 10 minutes, and I'll give you the advice that an old writing teacher of mine once gave me long before I had this pen to remind me to write every day. Set a timer for 10 minutes and keep the pen to the page. Do not stop writing. If you get stuck and your brain just goes blank, which, that could happen because Mercury's retrograde, or will be retrograde while the moon is new and going through this Pisces moon cycle, then just rewrite the last word you wrote, the last word, the last sentence, and just keep writing until the timer is up. And then go back and read what you wrote. If you go the other route and you choose to do the dream journal, it doesn't matter if it's a proper moleskin or some other type of journal, a spiral notebook, composition book, a handful of printer pages that you staple into something you can write with, put a pen and paper next to your bed, and as soon as you wake up, start writing down whatever you remember. It could just be, I climbed in a tree house. I don't remember anything else. Cool, note the tree house. It might be a really elaborate set of dreams, and who knows, maybe you'll turn it into incredible songs like Nico Case does, or maybe you'll turn it into some wild book, or who knows what, some piece of art in the future. And like I said, that'll be for April, and we'll talk more about how to take the stuff that comes out of this new moon period and put that to use or to good work. We'll talk about that later. That's the challenge of the week. That's the new moon in Pisces. I would love to hear from you how things are going throughout this new moon cycle. How does this challenge of the week land for you? What's coming up? If you have questions, feel free to drop those down in the comments box. More than happy to help you. I do have special Mercury retrograde readings available for the time that Mercury is retrograde and in their shadow zone. I'll drop a link for that as well down in the box, and I'll drop a card up here in the corner so that you can check out that Mercury retrograde video if you haven't already. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and remember to hit that subscribe box over there. Hit the notification bells if you would like to know as soon as new content becomes available. Again, my name is Ryver. I'm the Reiki Master and the intersectional astrologer of Psyche and Soul Astrology. My mission is to help you remain grounded and empowered while you accelerate your growth and I do appreciate your time. Until we meet again, best of luck to you. May your dreams be vivid and may your thoughts be inspiring. Until we meet again, all the best to you and so very much love.